Okay, welcome everyone, and thank you very much for coming. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We are very honored today to have with us Dr. Marazi. To talk to us. We will be talking for about half an hour, and after that we will have Q&A. So the topic today, as some of you may know, it's about Ibn Arabi and Shaikh Ahmad Sirhindi, conflict and concord. So I guess that means how they are the same and how they are different. This is a very big deal, I believe, for the peninsula. So the summary, I will just read a paragraph or two of the summary. Ibn Arabi and Ahmad Sirhindi are two of the most influential figures in Islamic mysticism, particularly within the tradition of Sufism. Though separated by time, geography, and intellectual orientation, both thinkers contributed deeply to the understanding of the relationship between God, the universe, and human existence. Their ideas, however, differ significantly, especially in their interpretations of divine unity and the nature of reality. So I won't say more about the topic. I will leave that for Professor Hamidullah Marazi to say. But I'll just say a few words for those who don't know the professor. Professor Hamidullah Marazi is a professor of Islamic philosophy and religious studies. He is a distinguished scholar in the fields of Islamic philosophy, religious study, and civilizational thought, with over 3 decades of experience in academia, research, and administration at leading universities, both in India and internationally. He is renowned globally for contributions to Islamic philosophy, Ghazzalian studies, interreligious dialogue, the integration of knowledge, and Islamic research methodology. He also possesses extensive expertise in curriculum development, postgraduate supervision, institutional leadership, and international academic collaboration. Currently, Professor Hamidullah is engaged in advanced research in Islamic philosophy, the integration of knowledge, Islamic research methodology, and civilization dialogue, with a sustained commitment to postgraduate supervision, academic leadership, and international scholarly collaboration. So, Professor Hamidullah, we are so grateful that you were able to come and talk to us today. So we appreciate very much your presence. So please go ahead and start your talk.
Thank you very much, Brother Frank. It is really a great occasion for me to talk to people like you and other brothers, and on a subject which is very interesting, but also sometimes controversial.
Yeah.
And before I will talk something about Ibn Arabi and Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi, I just want to give an introduction about the appraisal about his scholarship, because there have been some people who have been supporting his views, and others they have been opposing. And I would like to give a balanced viewpoint about Islamic scholarship about him. The figure of Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi died 638 AH, 1240 CE, often referred to as Shaykh al-Akbar, the greatest master, occupies a uniquely complex and contested position within the intellectual and spiritual history of Islam. His vast corpus, particularly works such as Fusus al-Hikam and Al-Futuhat al-Maqqiyya, has inspired generations of mystics, philosophers, and theologians, while simultaneously provoking sharp criticism and even accusations of heresy from others. The discourse surrounding Ibn Arabi is thus marked by a tension between reverence and caution, acceptance and critique, and ambivalence reflected in the text under discussion. This essay seeks to present a nuanced and scholarly evaluation of Ibn Arabi's drawing upon classical and later Islamic scholarship, and also his comparison with Ibn Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi. It will explore his intellectual contributions, the controversy surrounding his doctrine, especially Wahdatul Wujud, unity of being, and the balanced approach adopted by major scholars of Al-Sunnah. Born in Murcia, Andalusia, and later active in the Islamic East, Ibn Arabi emerged as one of the most prolific and profound Sufi thinkers in Islam. His writings encompass theology, metaphysics, cosmology, psychology, and spiritual ethics. He sought to articulate a comprehensive vision of reality grounded in divine unity, Tawheed, emphasizing the manifestation of God's names and attributes in creation. His doctrine of Wahdatul Wujud, though not explicitly named by him, has been understood as affirming that all existence is ultimately rooted in the being of Allah, with creation representing contingent manifestations rather than independent realities. This metaphysical vision, expressed through symbolic and often paradoxical language, became the focal point of both admiration and controversy. Nature of the controversy. The primary issue concerning Ibn Arabi lies not in his spiritual stature alone, but in the interpretation of his writings. His language is highly symbolic, layered, and at times ambiguous, making it susceptible to misunderstanding. Some scholars, upon encountering certain passages, perceive them as implying pantheism, identifying God with creation, negation of the distinction between creation and creator, statements that appear to contradict established theological principles. Consequently, a number of scholars issued severe critical voices. Among the most prominent critics was Ibn Taymiyyah, who strongly opposed interpretations associated with Wahdatul Wujud. He stated, among people or those who attribute to Ibn Arabi statements of Ittihad, union, and Hulul, incarnation, and such views are contrary to Islam. However, it is important to note that Ibn Taymiyyah's critique was often directed at interpretations and followers rather than always unequivocally condemning Ibn Arabi himself as an individual. He calls him very close to Islam from other Sufis like Ibn Sabin and Sobawiyah. Similarly, other scholars expressed reservations about the apparent meaning of certain statements, warning that they could mislead those lacking deep knowledge. Defensive and interpretative approaches. In contrast, a large number of scholars adopted a more cautious and interpretative stance, recognizing Ibn Arabi's intellectual depth while acknowledging the complexity of his language. Imam al-Suyuti's position. Jalaluddin Suyuti defended Ibn Arabi, stating, the writings of Shaykh al-Akbar are profound and require interpretation. One should not hasten to condemn him. Suyuti emphasizes that many problematic statements can be understood metaphorically or within a specialized mystical framework. Mullah Ali Qari held a balanced view. We affirm his wilaya, sainthood, and his azmah, greatness, while we refrain from affirming every statement attributed to him. This reflects the classical Sunni methodology of distinguishing between a scholar's rank and the correctness of all his opinions. Rahmanullah Dahlawi attempted reconciliation between Ibn Arabi's metaphysics and orthodox theology. He argued that apparent contradictions arise from differences in terminology and perspective. He says, the ikhtilaf difference between the people, Wahdatul Wujud and Wahdatul Shuhud, is often semantic, not essential. This interpretative bridge was significant in later Indo-Islamic scholarship. Imam Rabbani Mujahid al-Sani, a crucial figure in this debate, is Ahmad Sirhindi, who critically engaged with Ibn Arabi's ideas. He is known for articulating the doctrine of Wahdatul Wujud, unity of goodness, as a corrective to what he perceived as excesses in Wahdatul Wujud. He wrote, "Unity of being is a state, not an ultimate station." Despite his critique, Sirhindi maintained a deep respect for Ibn Arabi. He was among the awliyaullah, the greatest saints, though some of his expressions require correction. He says, this position is especially important. It demonstrates that disagreement does not necessitate denunciation. Principle of Tawil, interpretation. A key methodological approach adopted by many scholars is Tawil, interpreting ambiguous or problematic statements in a manner consistent with orthodox beliefs. Scholars such as Al-Bari, Ahmad Reza Khan have emphasized that we interpret that is interpretable and we consign what is unclear to Allah. This principle protects both the integrity of creed, the honor of a major Islamic scholar. The misinterpretation, a recurring theme in scholarly discussions, is that Ibn Arabi's works are not suitable for the general public. His writings employ symbolic and esoteric language, which suppose advanced knowledge of theology and spirituality, often require guidance from a qualified teacher. As noted by many scholars, quote, his books are like a deep ocean. Only a skilled swimmer can enter safely. This explains why the text advises ordinary readers to avoid delving into his intricate metaphysical discussions. Moderation in Sunni scholarship. The stance presented in the original text reflects a broader Sunni ethos of moderation. This approach can be summarized in 3 principles. Avoid takfir, excommunication. Declaring a Muslim as a discipline is a grave matter. The Prophet said, whoever says to his brother, O kafir, it returns to one of them. Sahih Bukhari. Thus, many scholars refrain from declaring Ibn Arabi as a disbeliever. Avoid blind acceptance. At the same time, scholars warned against accepting every statement uncritically, especially when it appears to conflict with Quran, Sunnah, and established norms. Adopt cautious engagement. The middle path involves respecting Ibn Arabi's scholarship, interpreting ambiguous statements, avoiding unnecessary polemics, comparative perspectives. The debate over Ibn Arabi also intersects with broader intellectual traditions, philosophical metaphysics, Sufi experiential knowledge, Kalam, theology. Some parallels have been drawn between his ideas and non-Islamic philosophers, but mainstream scholars have insisted that his framework remains rooted in Islamic concepts, even if expressed in unconventional language. Contemporary relevance. In modern times, the discussion of Ibn Arabi remains highly relevant, particularly in academic studies of Sufism, interfaith and philosophical discourses, internal Muslim debates on orthodoxy and spirituality. Scholars continue to revisit his works, often emphasizing the need for contextual reading, linguistic sensitivity, awareness of gender and intent. Conclusion of the introduction. The legacy of Muhyiddin Arabi is one of greatness, intertwined with complexity. He stands as a towering figure whose intellectual and spiritual contributions cannot be ignored, yet whose writings demand careful and informed engagement. The stance adopted by many scholars, reflected in the provided text, offers a model of scholarly balance, and it affirms his status as a major Sufi thinker. Recognize the presence of difficult or ambiguous statements. Employ interpretation where possible. Refrain from both takfir and uncritical acceptance. As Sirhindi and Jalaluddin Suyuti demonstrate, it is possible to combine critique with respect and disagreement with fairness. Ultimately, Ibn Arabi's works are not merely texts to be judged, but intellectual landscapes to be navigated with humility, knowledge, and caution. Now, coming to the main subject, Islamic mysticism has produced some of the most profound metaphysical reflections in the history of religious thought. Among its greatest representatives stand Ibn Arabi, whose doctrine of Wahdatul Wujud, unity of being, offered a comprehensive vision of reality grounded in divine unity. Centuries later, Ahmad Sirhindi, 1564 to 1624, a prominent Naqshbandi reformer in Mughal India, mounted a systematic critique of his doctrine, seeking to harmonize Sufi metaphysics with Orthodox Islamic theology. The intellectual encounter between these two figures represents not merely disagreement, but a deep engagement with the nature of existence, knowledge, and divine reality. While Ibn Arabi articulated a unifying metaphysical vision of existence, Sirhindi reformulated mystical experience within a framework that preserved divine transcendence and theological clarity. This essay presents a systematic and integrated analysis of their positions, with particular emphasis on Sirhindi's critique of Batul Wujud and his foundation of Batul Shuhud. Ibn Arabi, unity of being and spiritual quest, and something about his life. Ibn Arabi was born, as already mentioned, in Murcia, Spain, and he was prolific, right? There is no need to, reiterate it. His concept of unity of being needs little bit elaboration. Central to Ibn Arabi's philosophy is the concept of Batul Wujud, which posits that all existence is fundamentally unified in God. For Ibn Arabi, the diversity of creation reflects different manifestations of divine attributes, ultimately pointing towards the underlying unity of existence. His works emphasize that the multiplicity of forms in the world masks a deeper underlying unity, where everything is manifestation of the divine essence. He says in Hikam, all existence is a manifestation of the real. The cosmos is the self-disclosure of God, influence and legacy. He says, Allah is truth and man is also truth. We don't know who is responsible. And he also says, your existence is the greatest sin, and we can't imagine any sin like this. Such type of statements are attributed to Ibn Arabi. And he also quotes the hadith which is attributed to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and also Man arafa nafsahu faqad arafa rabbahu. Whosoever knows his self, he knows God. But this hadith has been considered to be spurious by the Muhaddisin. And such type of other, sayings are attributed to him. Now about his influence and legacy. Ibn Arabi's teachings are profoundly influential in subsequent Sufi thought and continue to be studied for their metaphysical depth and theological implication. His works, including Futuhatul Makkiyah, are essential texts in understanding Islamic mysticism and have been extensively commented upon by scholars over the centuries. Ibn Arabi and the metaphysics of unity, the thought of Ibn Arabi is rooted in a profound metaphysical insight that ultimate reality is one, and that this unity is none other than God. In his seminal work, particularly Fusul and Al-Futuhatul Makkiyah, Ibn Arabi elaborated a vision in which all existence is a manifestation, tajalli of the divine essence. According to Ibn Arabi, God alone possesses true and necessary existence, al-wujudul haq, while the world exists as a dependent reality, reflecting divine attributes in multiple forms. The apparent multiplicity of the universe is thus not independent, but a series of self-disclosures of the one. As he suggests, the cosmos is like a mirror in which the divine names and attributes are reflected. This doctrine does not necessarily imply crude pantheism. Rather, it expresses a subtle metaphysical unity in which the real al-haq is the only true existence, while the world is the shadow or manifestation, zil. And he has also talked about Tayinat Sitta and also Tanazzulat Sitta. This vision had immense influence on later Sufi thought. Ibn Arabi came to be known as Shaykh al-Akbar, the greatest master, and his areas permeated philosophical mysticism, shaping Persian poetry, metaphysical speculation, and spiritual discourse across the Islamic world. However, the very depth and ambiguity of his language also gave rise to controversy, as critics accused him of blurring the distinction between creator and the creation. Now coming to Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi. Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi was the most renowned of the disciples of Baqi Billah, born in Sirhind at Taun in Punjab. He was the son of Shaykh Abdul Ahad Makhdoom. Shaykh Abdul Ahad was a man of religion and was founder of the company of devoted Muslims and Sufis. He was moreover a religious scholar and taught his students not only the Quran, Hadith, and Fiqh, but also the books of Tasawwuf. He followed the teachings of the Prophet to the letter. For this reason, his mystical leanings led him to develop a special interest in the Naqshbandi order. For the Naqshbandis adhering strictly to the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah, it was but natural that Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi inherit this interest from his father. Ahmad Sirhindi and the context of reform. In his early childhood, Ahmad Sirhindi was given a proper religious education. First of all, he learned the Quran by heart and studied at home under his father. After learning Arabic and Persian and acquiring the basic knowledge of the religious sciences, he was sent to Sialkot to receive education under the guidance of Kamal Kashmiri and other ulama. So he has linked with Kashmir as well in this sense. Yaqub Kashmiri, a great scholar of Hadith, was one of his teachers. By the age of 17, he had completed all the higher courses and started teaching. Because of his scholarship, he was invited to the court of Akbar and stayed in Agra for several years. There he met Abul Fazl and Faizi and assisted them in their writings. Soon after, he married the daughter of a noble named Sheikh Sultan of Tansi. In 1599, at the age of 28, after the death of his father, whose teachings were responsible for developing his spirituality and who initiated him into a number of Sufi silsilas, Ahmad Sirhindi traveled to Delhi and visited Khwaja Baqi Billah. The Khwaja recognized his spiritual potential at a glance and expressed a great interest in him. On his part, Ahmad Sirhindi perceived the excellence of the Khwaja's spiritual attainments and decided to become his disciple. The Khwaja gave him full attention and it did not take Ahmad Sirhindi more than a few months to complete his training in a Naqshbandi order. Thereafter, he was appointed by the Sheikh as his Khalifa and presented with a khirka, gown, as a symbol of having completed his spiritual training. In his times, under the influence of Vedanta philosophy and Ibn Arabi, people say that he was influenced. The mystics adopted the concept that God and the universe were in the essence one and co-eternal, and that the universe was not the manifestation of the attributes of the God. This is attributed to Ibn Arabi, and this has been mentioned by Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi at many times also. Such a concept, according to Ahmad Sirhindi, was not compatible with the teachings of Islam. According to the scriptures, the world was created by the will of God and was also sustained by God. Man too was created and sustained by the same God. Only God was the eternal reality. Everything else was ephemeral. Thus, the concept of Wahdatul Wujud, which had become popular among the Sufis, had no basis in the Quran and Hadith, according to Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi. In fact, the Quran says, "And call not besides Allah on another God. There is no God but Him. Everything that exists will perish except Him." Chapter 28, verse 88. Ahmad Sirhindi held that this to be untrue, the world was not one with God, but proceeded from God. The existence of God was real, while the existence of the world was unreal and imaginary. The universe was not God, but the shadow of God, Zillullah. This concept, which he called Wahdatul Shuhud, or the unity, oneness of witnessing, the Shaykh felt was entirely in consonance with the unity of God or Tawheed, which was the cornerstone of Islam. In Islam, God is one and indivisible, an absolute whole. The creator and the created are separate. The world exists and it is other than God. He explains his concept by a simile, quote, "The presence of the world is like the presence of the image of an object in a mirror. Thus, the presence of the image is not the existence of the object. The object is real, but the image is unreal. The existence of the image is a shadow existence, that is wujud zilli, totally separate from the real existence, wujud asali, of the object. In this way, the existence of the world is a shadow existence separate from the real existence of God. Unquote. Vahatashud also means unity of vision. That is to say, the experience of union or oneness is related to vision rather than reality. This addressed the experience of the Sufis of becoming one with God. The experience of union, said Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi, did not mean that man became one with God. In reality, their servants shall remain the servant forever. After explaining this concept, Shaykh Ahmad concludes, quote, may God save us from their blasphemous ideas. And he says, creator and creation must remain distinct. To say all is God compromises Tawheed. Unity lies in perception, not in existence. True knowledge preserves distinction. Without distinction, morality collapses. Sharia is the foundation of spirituality. Purification is essence of Sufism. Only the Ahlullah understand such truths. The one is, and then he also says in his Maktuba, Mara as Futuhati Madaniya, Mara as Futuhati Makkiya Benya Sakhtan, Mara Nastares Nabafas. We have been made indifferent to the Futuhati Makkiya by the Futuhati Madaniya of the Prophet's sayings. And for us, the ordinances of the Quran and Sunnah are sufficient, then the Fusus Hikam. Ahmad Sirhindi emerged in a markedly different context, living in Mughal India during the reign of Emperor Akbar, a period characterized by religious syncretism and intellectual pluralism. Sirhindi sought to reaffirm Islamic orthodoxy and revive the centrality of the Tawheed, divine unity. Deeply rooted in the Naqshbandi Sufi tradition, Sirhindi did not reject mysticism, rather he aimed to discipline and reform it. His letters compiled in the Maktubat provide a detailed account of his theological reflections, spiritual experiences, and critiques of the prevailing doctrine. Among his most, as I already mentioned, among his most significant intellectual contributions is his critique of Watul Wujud, which he viewed as potentially problematic both theologically and socially. And what is his ontological critique? Let us have a glance. The central pillar of Sirhindi's critique is the insistence on an absolute ontological distinction between God and creation, while Ibn Arabi's doctrine emphasizes the unity of existence. Sirhindi argues that such a formulation risks collapsing the fundamental distinction between the creator Khaliq and the created Makhluk. In his view, God alone possesses real, necessary, and independent existence, whereas creation possesses only contingent and dependent existence. To equate or identify the two, even implicitly, undermine the core Islamic principle of divine transcendence, Tanzih. Sirhindi repeatedly stresses that although the world depends entirely on God for its existence, it does not share in his essence. Thus, his critique is not directed at the recognition of divine immanence, but at any formulation that might compromise divine otherness. By resorting this ontological divinity, Sirhindi seeks to safeguard the integrity of Islamic monotheism. Perhaps Sirhindi's most original contribution lies in this epistemological interpretation of his mystical experience. He argued that the unity perceived by Sufis is not an objective feature of reality, but a subjective state of consciousness. To articulate this, he introduces the doctrine of Watu. According to this perspective, the mystic in a state of intense spiritual absorption perceives only God and becomes oblivious to all else. However, this does not mean that only God exists. Rather, it reflects the limitation of the mystic's perception. Basically, Sirhindi says that this is a state of Sufi journey when man reaches to Watul Wujud, when he finds only God, nothing else. But when he comes out from that state of mind, he sees other things also existing. As during day, we have no vision of moon or the stars, but at night, we see stars and moon as well. But when we are overwhelmed by the vision of sun, we are oblivious of the existence of moon and stars. So is the case with the Sufi who is overwhelmed by the presence of God and he is oblivious of other existences. But when he comes out from this state, he is recognizing his own existence and existence of the universe. In this way, Sirhindi shifts his debate from ontology, what exists, to epistemology, how it is experienced. This distinction allows him to affirm the authenticity of mystical experience while rejecting the metaphysical conclusions drawn from it. The unity experienced by the Sufi is thus real as an experience, but not as an ontological claim. A major concern for Sirhindi is the preservation of divine transcendence. He argues that Watul Wujud, by emphasizing divine immanence, risks diminishing God's absolute otherness. For him, true Tawheed requires maintaining a delicate balance between tanzih, transcendence, and tashbih, immanence. Sirhindi contends that Ibn Arabi's followers often overemphasize immanence, leading to interpretations that verge on pantheism. Even if Ibn Arabi himself did not intend such conclusions, the language of unity could easily be misunderstood, especially by those lacking intellectual or spiritual maturity. The Sirhindi's critique is also protective and pedagogical. I would add, preventing theological confusion and safeguarding the faith of the wider community. Sirhindi extended his critique beyond metaphysics in the realm of ethics and religious practices. He argues that if all existence is understood as a manifestation of God, then distinction between good and evil may become blurred. Such a perspective could weaken moral responsibility and undermine adherence to the Sharia. For Sirhindi, Sufism must remain firmly grounded in religious law, ethical discipline, spiritual struggle. Mystical insight, no matter how profound, cannot override the normative framework of Islam. By emphasizing the primacy of the Sharia, Sirhindi asserts the integration of spirituality and law, ensuring that Sufism remains both transformative and disciplined. Another important dimension of Sirhindi's thought is his graded understanding of mystical experience. He suggests that the perception of unity corresponds to an intermediate state in the spiritual journey. At higher levels, the mystic regains awareness of multiplicity while maintaining a deep connection with God. Thus, the experience associated with Watul Wujud is not denied, but reinterpreted as a state rather than a final truth. The highest realization in Sirhindi's view lies in harmonizing awareness of both unity and distinction. It is essential to recognize that Sirhindi's engagement with Ibn Arabi is not purely oppositional. He does not reject Ibn Arabi outright, nor does he deny the validity of mystical insight. Instead, he undertakes a critical reformulation seeking to align Sufi metaphysics with the principles of Sunni theology. His project can thus be understood as an attempt to preserve the spiritual depth of Sufism, correct its metaphysical excesses, integrate it with a coherent theological framework. Conclusion: the intellectual dialogue between Ibn Arabi and Ahmad Sirhindi represents one of the most significant debates in Islamic thought. While Ibn Arabi articulated a grand vision of metaphysical unity, Sirhindi responded with a disciplined critique that preserved the transcendence of God and the integrity of Islamic theology. By shifting the focus from ontology to epistemology, Sirhindi provided a powerful interpretation of mystical experience, allowing it to coexist with doctrinal orthodoxy. His doctrine of Watul Shuhud stands as a testament to his intellectual originality and his commitment to reform. Ultimately, the tension between these two perspectives reflects the richness and diversity of Islamic mysticism. It highlights the ongoing effort within the tradition of to balance unity and multiplicity, experience and doctrine, mysticism and law. This dynamic interplay continues to shape contemporary discourses on Sufism, metaphysics, and the nature of divine reality in Islam. Bibliography: Ansari, Abdul Haq Ansari, Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi's Doctrine of Watul Wujud, the Quarterly Journal Islamic Studies, Danner, Vector, the Islamic Tradition and Introduction, Gilani, Manhaj Qasim Gilani, Al-Furqan, Mujaddid Al-Afsani, Special Number, Habib Irfan, Akbar and His Age, Khuduri, Majid, Islamic Jurisprudence, Lapidus Era, A History of Islamic Societies, Nasr Sayyid Hussain, Islamic Philosophy from its origin to the present, Philosophy in the Land of Prophecy, Rafi Abadi, Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi and his Doctrine of Tawheed, Journal of the Pakistan Historical Society, Rahman Fazl Rahman, Selected Letters of Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi, Shimil Inimari, Mystical Dimension of Islam, Sirhindi Ahmad Maktubat Imam Rabbani, volume 3 volumes. Suman John, Sufism with Saints and Shrines. Birmingham, Spencer, The Sufi Order of Islam. Zarinko Hussain, 2 Centuries of Silence, translated by Paul Saprojman. Ahmad as Maqbool, The Political Thought of Sheikh Ahmad Sirhindi. Ahmad Shahab, Before Orthodoxy, The Satanic Verses in Early Islam. Arbery, A.J., Sufism and Account of the Mystics of Islam. Ashraf Sayyid Ali, Sheikh Ahmad, A Great Mystic of Islam. Ernest Corral, Following Muhammad, Rethinking Islam in the Contemporary World. Massinon Loy, The Passion of Al-Halaj, Mystic and Model of Islam. Nasser Sayyid Hussain, The Essential Sayyid Hussain Nasser, World Wisdom. Rizvi Sayyid Atar Abbas, A Social Intellectual History of the Isna Ashariya Shiaism in India. Sean Hishon, Understanding Islam. Sirhindi Ahmad, Maktubat Rabbani, Idara Tahqiqat Islami Lahore. Watt Montgomery, Islamic Philosophy and Theology. Zia Hussain, Knowledge and Illumination. Zutshi Chandralekha, Language of Belonging, Islam, Regional Identity, and the Making of Kashmir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Hamidullah. That was a very thorough talk. You didn't leave anything uncovered, have you? You talked about all the aspects of wujud and shuhud. So we might encourage people, if they want to go a little bit deeper into some of these things. So if anyone likes to make comments or ask questions, please feel free to go ahead. You may also just start talking, or if you prefer to put your hand up first, it's up to you. But while we're not all fighting at once, anyone can start talking. Maybe until people get their thoughts together, I can ask one thing about wujud and witnessing, shuhud. Yeah, it's very, very difficult to still, despite of everything you said, there is still very difficult to say what the difference is about them, specifically experientially, if we take dhawq into account, not just intellectual. Intellectually, we come up with many words. We say, this is what it means, this is the difference. But experientially, I'm just wondering whether you have the ability to describe in any way when a person is himself living being and is not living being, how would he find his life differently? Similarly, when a person is a witness and is living shuhud, how is he feeling his life, day-to-day life, different from whether he's doing it or not doing it, from the point of view of his life experience, his dhawq, I don't know if that's a difficult question, but I would be happy to hear whatever you like to say about that, Professor.
MashaAllah. Although I could not articulate everything, because this is a very, very intricate subject, and I think we should have some more sessions on this. And I can just give one talk on these two concepts, what wujud and what shuhud only. I will deal only with these two aspects, and I will just then discuss Anudat Sitta and Tayinat Sitta, and how Sirhindi has evaluated those concepts, and what was the response of Sirhindi to these concepts of Tayinat Sitta or Anudat Sitta. But as per my knowledge, as I have gone through Sheikh Ahmad Sirhindi's Maktubat, and also then Ibn Arabi's Futuhat Makkiyah and Khusus al-Hikam, I could find that which has been articulated by Sheikh Ahmad Sirhindi in a different way. He says basically these are the experiences. He accepts that this is experiential. This is not to be expressed. He says that even I have passed through this stage of Watul Wujud. I was also thinking as Ibn Arabi was thinking. This was one stage of my Sufi journey. And I could find that there's only one thing existing, that's God and nothing else. Because there is one saying in Watul Wujud and Watul Shuhud, Fi kulli shayyin lahu ayatun, fadallu ala annahu aynahu. Watul Wujudi says, in everything of this universe, there is a sign which says that I am He. While as Watul Shuhudi says, Fi kulli shay'in lahu ayatun, tadallu ala annahu wahidun. In everything of this universe, there is sign of God, which says that God is one. This is the main difference between Watul Wujud and Watul Shuhud. One says that this universe is one with God, God is one with the universe. And Watul Shuhud says, no, God is one. Everything is God's. Everything is not God. But according to Watul Wujud, everything is God. But that is an experience. That is not philosophical formulation. That Sufi finds that there is no one existing than Allah. And then Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi gives an example, very good example. He says during the daytime, we are oblivious of the existence of stars and moon because we are so overwhelmed by the existence of sun. We are totally, ignorant about the existence of moon and stars. But when the night dawns, we find there is moon, there are stars, sun is not the only existent. So is the case with Sufi. When he is under the impression, because he has been taught La Mujda illallah, because Sufis are reciting this kalima again and again, La Mujda illallah, La Mujda illallah. And this becomes enshrined in their hearts, ingrained in their hearts. And then they do think anything else than this. They find everywhere there's only God. But when they come out from that state of mind, as I have come out, says Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi, then I realize that I am not the an, but I am the zil. I am not the essence, I am the adumbration of the attributes of God. So a Sufi in that experiential aspect realizes the attributes of God, not essence of God. Then he thinks, for example, as Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi would say, there was nothing, there was Adam. And God put the shadow of his quality of being on that, and it became existent. There was ignorance. Then God put the adumbration of his attribute of knowledge on that ignorance, and it became knowledge. So everything is basically the adumbration of the quality of God, not essence of God. It is not the adumbration or the shadow of the essence of God, but it's the shadow of the quality of God. There is a difference. So he tries to, establish the qualities of God, which in a sense were denied by Ibn Arabi, in a sense, as was done also by Mu'tazilites. And then those were just established by the Asharites. Then they believe that God has qualities also. He has attributes. He has sifat also. He has not only zat, but he has sifat also. And he is working in this universe through his sifat. He is doing all the actions through his sifat. Sifat of ilm, sifat of hayat, sifat of qudrah, sifat of mercy, all these type of things. And then Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi says that basically this is an experience. And Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi passed through this experience. But he remained there. He did not pass from that stage to another stage. But I passed from that stage to another stage. While I found it is not, everything is not God, but everything is God's. And even myself, I experienced that I am Abd. And the best thing is Abd, to be the servant, not God, not one with God, but to be the servant of God, or to be the adumbration of the quality of God. So he called it Ziliyah, adumbration. So we are basically the shadow of the qualities of God, and universe is the shadow of the qualities of God. And through these qualities, God has operated, and he has created the universe. And everything is, his witness in this way. And basically he says that in the witness of Sufi, in the vision of Sufi, there was concept of oneness. But in reality, it was not. It was only in the vision of Sufi, when he passes through that stage of Watul Wujud. Because that's a stage, one stage. Because there are several tayinat. One is tayini ruhi, tayini wukufi, tayini jasadi, and tayini jasadi. And such type of wukuf are there, tayini alimi. And one stage becomes like this. But he says, this is not that tayun, but it is basically the qualities of God which are reflected in the creations. So this is the point where he says that this is experiential, and this can't be made as metaphysical, articulation or formulation. And in this way, only Sufi has this vision when he is passing through that stage. But he also can come out from that stage. But unfortunately, according to Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi, Ibn Arabi did not come out from that stage. He remained in the stage of Wahdatul Wujud, and he found that everything is identical with God, and every aspect of universe is one with God.
Very interesting. So what you're saying is that they are both right, saying what they see, but one, it gives the impression, I'm not sure which is a higher, the one who goes in God and doesn't come out, or the one who comes out. I'm wondering which one is a higher.
You're right. And there is one saying now, for example, there was one Abdul Haq Gangohi. He said that Prophet Muhammad went to the Miraj and he came back. Had a Sufi gone, had I gone there, I would have not come back. So the experience of Sufi is different from the experience of the Prophet. Prophet comes back and then he guides people. But Sufis remain at their stage sometimes. Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi has also talked about this, that this was a stage in Tasawwuf, that when one man has God in vision, he thinks that there is only one existence which is there. That's God only, and then nothing else. But that's only in his vision and his witness. This is not in reality. But when he comes out from that, state of mind and state of soul, whatever it is, spirit, he finds that there are other existence. And this is the case with Bais Bistami also. Sometimes he would be in intoxication. And he would say, Subhani ma'azam ushani. Glory to me, how great I am. But then he would be asked by people, what you said? He said, I don't know what I said. And Ghazali has rightly said that he has quoted Ibn Mu'taz, Ana ma kana limma mimma lasta azkuru. Hazan al-khair fala tasal al-khabar. The state of Sufi is such. He says what it is what it is, but I don't know what it is. And have a good opinion, don't ask about details. So Sufi can't explain that. What is that state? That is the state of the Sufi. That can't be shared with other people unless they also pass through that status or that state of mind. So in this way, Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi wants to say, basically it was the state of mind of Ibn Arabi. He thought that there's only one existence. But there was another station also. That was stage of Zinniyat, not Ainiyat, not essentialism, but there was the adoration that we are basically Abud. The universe is the servant of God. Humans are servants of God. They are not one with God. They are gods, not God. So this is the experiential aspect which has been mentioned by Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi in most of his letters in the Maktubah, which are very, very, important source of his thought and philosophy.
So you think when one is in God and they come out, does come out means they leave God or they bring God with them?
Basically, Sirhindi does not accept that man can go into God or he can be incorporated with God. He says God is God and man is man.
Right.
So Khalik is Khalik and Makhluk is Makhluk. Creator and creation has difference. They are not, one in any way, in any case. But nearness and closeness to God is possible. And then there are hadiths of the Prophet Sallallahu Yatakarramu bin nawa ilayya bin nawafil. When the moment or a person is coming closer to Allah, then God, he sees through the eye of God. He walks through the feet of God. He catches through the hand of God. He listens through the ear of God. And he catches with the catch of God. Such type of words have been used in the hadith. But it has been said, Yatakarrabu. He goes closer to Allah. But he does not become God at all. Because there is no concept of incarnation in Islam. Islam says that Allah is Allah and man is man. They can never become one. And otherwise the tanzi will be affected. Tanzi means transcendence of God. Islam does not believe, according to Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi in Tashbih, that we can just say that God is like this and God is like that. La tazribu lillahi al-amsal. Then there are Quranic verses also. Laisa kamisi shay'un wa huwa as-sami'ul alim. No one can be like Allah. So he is knowing and he is Sami'ul Khabir. And he is knowing and he has information about everything. So in this way, Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi also tries to establish that there is tanzih, there is transcendence, there is not eminence in that sense, which is alluded to by Watul Wujudi. And he says this is totally wrong to say that God and man is one. And as he just quotes Ibn Arabi, Al-Abdu Haqqun wal-Rabbu Haqqun. Ya layta shayri manil muqallib. God is truth and man is also true. I don't know who is responsible. So such type of sayings of Ibn Arabi have been criticized by Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi, and he says, "Mara futuhati madaniya as futuhati makkiya bena niya saftan." We have been made indifferent to the futuhati makkiya of Ibn Arabi by the futuhati madaniya of Prophet Sallallahu. Then hadiths of the Prophet Sallallahu have made us indifferent, and we are not needing the futuhati madaniya makkiya of Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi. Then he says, "Mara ba nasfares nabafas." We should have a relation, or we should have concern with the ordinances of the Quran and Sunnah rather than the Fusus Hikam. He quotes in such hysterically that Fas and Nas. Nas means Quranic verses and Ahadith, and Fas means Fusus Hikam. So in this way, he says we should replace such type of teachings by the teachings of Quran and Sunnah. But he does not deny the Sufi experience of Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi. He says he was from the Maqbulani Baragha, as was said by Shawkani, that for 40 years I tried to level the fatwa of infidelity against Shaykh Ibn Arabi, but I was always proven failure. I was always proven wrong. And such is the view about Shawkani about Ibn Arabi and of other scholars of Islam. And same is the case with when Ibn Taymiyyah says that he is very close to Islam from other Watul Wujudi like Ibn Sabiya and Ibn Sabil and Qanawiya, and he is very close because he used to worship Allah, and he was regular in prayers. And same point has been mentioned by Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi. He says that he is from Maqbulani Bargah. He is from the accepted people from the Allah, from those people who have been accepted by Allah as his friends and his saints. So Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi does not denounce his experience. He says this was a stage in his experiential journey. So, but this stage is not the last stage. This is one of the stages. But he remained at that stage. That was the problem. In this stage, people say these things. And many people, and these are known as Shatahat Sufia. These are the stray thoughts. Such type of things as have been attributed to Junaid Baghdadi, Baiz Bastami, and other Sufis as well. They have said these things because they were in the state of mind while they were one-to-one. They were very close to Allah. At that time, they were uttering these type of statements. But when they came back to the state of wakefulness, then they just were following the Sharia in letter and spirit. And they were so much careful about Sharia that they never deviated from that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor. Does anyone like to ask Professor Hamidullah any questions or have any comments about anything that he talked about today? Yes, Professor Yusuf Amin, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Dr. Hamidullah Marazi has indeed presented a very well-referenced talk and shows erudition and scholarship. I want to make a comment on and I think that people who are aware of these debates and discussions and who have some knowledge of the details, the scholarly details which have been mentioned so comprehensively by Dr. Marazi, but if other people who may have some knowledge of some of these details, they will agree that the correlations have been made correctly. They'll agree with it. But I have a comment on methodology. And that comment is that when we are talking about a very complex thing, then instead of breaking it up into all the necessary elements and then trying to say something about all the elements and then again synthesizing our comments on all the elements, that would be cumbersome and that would take the mind of the addressee away from the main issue, and that in fact going a step ahead, that may lead to some conclusions which may not be correct. So when we are dealing with the complex things, it is better to adopt a way of testing, because in science we say that first we make a hypothesis and then we test the hypothesis. So the crucial issue is the method of testing. So when the matter is very complex, it is intangible and very complex, then the method of testing should not be to the method of testing, instead of being to break it up into all the elements and then saying something about all the elements and then trying to resynthesize our comments back into one comprehensive comment and position. Instead of that, we should try to ask questions which refer to that object of study as a whole, which refer to that object of study as a whole. That should be our approach. And then try to test it and to see whether the hypothesis is correct or not. In this case, the hypothesis is that is there something wanting in Ibn Arabi's Wahdatul Wujud, and is the opinion of Shaikh Ahmad Sirhindi regarding it, whether it is correct or not. So these are the two issues. So we should try to adopt a methodology which encompasses these two hypotheses as a whole, instead of breaking them up into elements and then talking about each element. So in my mind, one method of this holistic testing, instead of analytical testing, one method could be the response of the Ummah. What was the response of the Ummah? That could be a valid way of testing. And the response of the Ummah has been that the overwhelming majority of the scholars of the Ummah right down the ages, they have all accepted and followed Wahdatul Wujud once it was stated by Sheikh Ahmad Sirhindi. Of course, it's a complex thing, so they may vary in their interpretations, etc. But in principle, they have all accepted Wahdatul Wujud, and they have used it for the explanation of theology, for the explanation of questions about God and the relation of God with creation. For all these things, they have used Wahdatul Wujud as a true thing. So this is very telling. It indicates that Wahdatul Wujud is the most perfect, if not the perfect, basis for explaining religious questions and questions related to God, particularly in the context of Islam and Muslims. It is the most perfect, if not the perfect, basis for explanation. That we would be justified in having that conclusion. And recently I met a scholar and he told me that Shah Abdul Aziz, the son of Shah Waliullah, has written somewhere that Shah Waliullah said on one occasion that we believe that Ibn Arabi's view is correct and perfect as compared to the view of Sheikh Ahmad Sirhindi. Although this is not mentioned in the more mainstream writings of Shah Waliullah, but this has been referred to by his son, Shah Abdul Aziz, in one of his writings. Unfortunately, I did not ask that gentleman to give me the reference of Shah Abdul Aziz, where he makes this claim about the later and final view of Shah Waliullah on these issues, that Ibn Arabi's view is more is correct and comprehensive as compared to the view of Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi. So this is one thing, that the great majority of the Ummah, they have accepted Wahdatul Wujud, and they have tried to explain theological questions in the light of Wahdatul Wujud, and they have been successful both in satisfying individuals as well as in satisfying the demands of objective scholarship when they have used Wahdatul Wujud, of course, after making due interpretations and qualifications and all those things. This is one thing. The second thing is, the second approach of this holistic, the second concrete shape of this holistic methodology could be to select out of the many elements that element which can be considered as the most iconic, most central, and most holistic element, and then to look at the issue from the point of view of that element which is very central and holistic. This is another way of encompassing a particular object of study in the whole. And in my opinion, one very important element, which is nearly equivalent to the entire complex topic, that element is that what is the substance of creation? What is the ontology of creation? What is the substance of creation? And some scholars have given the answer by alluding to one ayat of the Quran. Unfortunately, I do not have the reference of that ayat, but that I can have easily by asking, Alhamdulillah, any Hafiz or memorizer of the Quran. I can get that reference in which it is said that have they been made people who deny God, let them answer this question, that if there is no God, then from what they have been made, or they have been made out of nothing. This is one of the ayat of the Quran, and some scholars use it to show that the basic substance of creation is nothing but God. Of course, in a descent, after a descent, and in a virtual mode, not exactly, but in a virtual mode. Those qualifications are made, but they say that that thing is nothing but God, and this makes it similar to the Vedanta scheme also, where it is said that the Purusha sacrificed himself, and from his various members, various castes and communities arose. The Purusha sacrificed himself, so the world was made from the substance of God. So these are, in my opinion, these are two concrete and technical forms in which we can adopt the holistic the methodology of addressing a complex topic as a whole, rather than dividing it into its elements and then examining each element and then putting together our discussion on all the elements together. This becomes not only difficult to understand by the average interlocutor or addressee, it even makes it very difficult to test the opinion of the scholar who is making those comments, because it becomes very unwieldy with having so many elements and then having different opinions on those elements. So my view is that on such complex and large issues, we must adopt a method of testing which grasps that object as a whole. And two ways, concrete ways of grasping at a whole of this particular concept of whether to, this particular object of whether to wujud of Ibn Arabi or whether to shuhud of Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi is to see what is the approach of the Ummah. So the Ummah has accepted whether to wujud. The mainstream of the Ummah has accepted whether to wujud, of course, with qualifications. And they have accepted it, and not only accepted, they have practically used it for developing theology, which is satisfying personally also, and at the objective knowledge point of view also, it is philosophically and intellectually also, it is more satisfying. So this is one approach, and the other one is to select one of the elements as the representative or iconic or holistic element, which I have pointed out as the issue of the stuff from which the creation has been made. So that question is properly answered in Wahdatul Wujud, but it is left even unasked. What to talk of being answered? It is left unasked in Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi's approach.
MashaAllah. So, and it was a very good session. And actually, I just want to, the subject is such a difficult subject, as you rightly said, very difficult and very, I should say, sometimes controversial as well. So I just wanted to, in this lecture, I wanted to just give a introductory remarks about everything, because I wanted to just lay ground for, further discussions. Maybe I can just talk in some other lectures about what truth and the response of the Ummah to both the views. Because in my view, methodologically, whatever you said was right, quite right. And as people have said that we should not discuss these issues among the common people. It's very difficult for them to understand, to comprehend. It's a very intricate subject in that sense. But point is that even Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi, he himself was Wahdatul Wujudi for some time. He also passed through this stage of Wahdatul Wujud, where he said that everything is God. And it is experiential in that sense. It can't be experienced, expressed in the formulated language or metaphysical, nuances. So in this way, you are right that we need to see the response of Ummah. So far as philosophically concerned, as a student of philosophy myself, I can also see that Wahdatul Wujud is more compatible to my philosophical understanding. But philosophy, and there is difference between religion and philosophy always. And I have seen there's a good number of Muslims who have also opposed this doctrine. Even, our Sayyid Ali Hamdani, he was following this doctrine of Wahdatul Wujud. But his uncle, Samnani, he was Wahdatul Shuhudi. And there have been many other scholars in India also. They have not accepted everything of Wahdatul Wujud. And they have, even Shaikh Dalvi has made some reconciliation. But he has also made some, I should say, corrections here and there, as well as other Sufis later on. In this way, I find that we need to just make this hypothesis and make it a subject of discussion for further deliberations as well. This is a subject. We need to have more and more deliberations on this. As you rightly said, most of the Sufis have adopted this Wahdatul Wujud, no doubt, you're right. In Kashmir also, in India also, in the Indian subcontinent and in other parts of the world as well. But there are Sufis also who have adopted Wahdatul Shuhud in many parts, and there are some very substantial scholars who have worked on Wahdatul Shuhud. But basically, it was a trend those days that such type of philosophically, it is very, very coherent, Wahdatul Wujud. And philosophy was very much dominant those days, as has been said by Badiuzzama Nursi. Had Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani lived today, he would have taken us back to Quran and Sunnah rather than Tasawwuf. So these were the discussions very much rampant during the times of Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi and Ibn Arabi and other Sufis. But in modern times, people are more inclined towards Quran and Sunnah rather than going what the Sufis have said. They have said very good things because that was based on their experience. But their experience was their experience. That can't become my experience. So we can't make this experiential knowledge to be expressed in the very, very clear language. It's very difficult. We have to be figurative, we have to be metaphorical, and we have to be sometimes very much cautious how to interpret these people. And sometimes we fail to interpret what actually Ibn Arabi meant and what Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi meant, because they have passed through these experiences and were expressing. And I always remember, I am reminded by the Ghazali's that quotation that is popular. It was what it was. I don't know what it was. I have a good opinion, but don't ask about details. When the Sufis are not able to give details of their experience, how we can give? So it is very difficult in that way to articulate what they wanted to say. But you're right. In our own understanding, we should make it just a hypothesis and make it formulated in form of different type of theses and whatever, so that we can explain each and every aspect of what we do and what to show in detail, and that is needed. And I intend to give some more, lectures on this subject. And this was just introductory program today. And I have already asked the brother, Frank, that I am ready to give some more talks. So we can just take Sirhindi separately. We can take, Ibn Arabi separately, and then we can take Watu Wujud and Watu Shuhud. And then also we can take Shawala Dahli, how he has tried to reconcile. And in this way, it can be a very, fruitful debate. And we need your guidance, especially people like Professor Hamidullah. Yusuf means, and he has been a scholar, and mashallah, he has been always guiding us earlier also, and we also expect that he will be guiding us in future as well. Thank you very much. Jazakallah.
May I say a few words in 2 minutes?
Please.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Just sticking to the issue of methodology, I presented 2 concrete forms of the holistic methodology, one of them being the response of the Ummah. So in that response of the Ummah, the issue was that majority of the scholars in Sufia, post Ibn Arabi Sufi and scholars, majority of them accepted it and used it in their work. Majority. So I accept, and no one can deny the fact that there were very eminent and important persons who did not agree with it and who tried to have alternate fundamental principles for explaining religious questions and divine questions and spiritual questions. So there were other opinions, but what was presented by way of hypothesis was that the majority of the post-Ibn Arabi scholars in Sufia, they accepted Wahdatul Wujud, and they used it for developing their own theology and for their own Sufism. I'm reminded of a comment by the late Professor Yasin Mazhar Siddiqui of the Islamic Studies Department of Aligarh Muslim University, in a rather lighter vein. He used to say that after Ibn Arabi, all of us are Wahdatul Wujudis. Whatever we may explicitly say about our position, but if our writings, if our positions are scratched and examined, then all of us are Wahdatul Wujudis. So that was said in a lighter vein, but I think that that is close to reality. But I agree that this can itself be a topic of study. What was the response of the Ummah to Ibn Arabi's Wahdatul Wujud? This itself can be, I agree that this would be a fruitful and new topic of study, which can help us to have better understanding.
And even if I am allowed, I add one point more. Dr. Frank, I am allowed?
Of course you're allowed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was thinking that let us start from the beginning. What the earlier scholars, classical scholars said about Ibn Arabi, and then come to Shaykh Ahmad and others. What has been their overall opinion? Maybe from Ibn Taymiyyah, what he has said in his fatwa. And let us see how they have viewed Ibn Arabi. What is wrong in that? As scholars, as students, let us see what were his arguments. And then we can see other arguments which have been just presented by people about what to wujud and what to shuhud. And then we can have a very good debate on this. Who are the opponents of Wahdatul Wujud and who are the supporters of Wahdatul Wujud? And if we present their views and see the substance of their argument and evaluate those, it can be a very good debate, and it will be very useful and fruitful, and we can solve this controversy for all time to come, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sometimes, Doctor, I wonder whether there is differences or there is no differences. It's just the way it is expressed by different people. Sometimes the same, they look at the same thing and they express it differently. For example, in English, and I think Ibn Arabi used those words in Arabic, there is the word unmanifest and the word manifest. Now, they both refer to the same thing. Something is unmanifest, and that same thing which is unmanifest manifests. So both the manifest and the unmanifest, while there must be some difference in them, otherwise we wouldn't use different words to describe them, but we are really talking about the same thing because it is the unmanifest that is manifesting. Some even say, I think from the Indian people, they say not Indian, they say that the unmanifest, after manifesting, it still remains unmanifest. It doesn't disappear and the manifest takes over and the unmanifest and manifest has gone. They're still both together as one in a sense, yet they are still different. So are they the same or are they different?
Yeah. That's the conversation was similarly. Nothing is like him.
Yes, yes.
You would give examples or tashbih about Allah. So he's Allah and we are humans. There is tanzi and there is tashbih.
Yeah.
Tashbih means eminence and tanzi means, transcendence.
Yes.
So something has to remain different, as you rightly said, manifest and unmanifest. So
Yes.
that can be explained in this way.
That's it. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else likes to speak and make comment to ask questions? I'd like to invite, if you don't mind, N. Mirza. I noticed you put in the chat Surah At-Tur. I'm wondering whether that was why you put it there. Is that an answer to a question you heard, to a comment that you heard? I'm not sure what to make out of this by itself. If you care and you like to respond, you're welcome.
Okay, yeah, and Ms. Actually, it was in response to the comment being made by earlier speaker, and when I mentioned that nothing has been created out of nothingness, and that is actually the need of a creator to be there to create anything out of something or out of nothing. That is actually what is mentioned in that particular verse of Surah Tur.
Yes. Thank you.
And actually, I also made another comment earlier also that the question remains unanswered, and it was again in response to your basic question that how does it manifest whether you are follower of Wahdatul Wujud or Wahdatul Shuhud? How does it finally manifest in the particular approach of people in their own way to different things? And that Professor Hamid Saab actually shared all the pearls of wisdom and the great knowledge that he has on the subject. But somehow my feeling is that the basic thing, and it needs some more attention and some more clarification, because finally, in the final analysis, when we see that, okay, you say, that this is because a particular person is at a particular stage, and then he now moves to another stage, and then you give all the justifications, and that actually does not explain it fully, because it still remains unanswered that why there is a particular approach at a particular point in time, and then there is a change, and then you attribute it to some other whatever further experience. And then another thing that was said that so far as these Sufi experiences are concerned, these are not to be expressed, but they are to be experienced. So that again is a problematic area so far as I am concerned. And also my basic question would be that say, for example, if we take Ibn Arabi, then Sheikh Ahmad Sirhindi, and then Sheikh Ahmad Sirhindi's teacher, Sheikh Yaqub Sarfi. So if we say that present a particular line of thought, but how does it manifest in their own actions? That is actually would be my humble submission, because of their role in politics, of their role in society, of their role in their lives. And do we get enough such concrete examples that actually tells us, okay, yeah, they are the proponents and the believers of this particular line of thought? That's actually, that is very deep, and I don't know whether I have been able to articulate it fully well. God bless.
Can I respond?
Yes, please, Doctor. Yes.
Thank you very much, Professor Nasir Mirza, my very great friend, old friend. So really, your question is very important, your observation also. Basically, there are Quranic verses which have mentioned that Allah could create anything out of nothing. Badiyu samawat wal ard. Badiyu means that there was nothing before that, and that is known as creatio ex nihilo. Allah could create anything out of nothing. And khalaq means to create something from something. So this point has been explained by Yaqub al-Kindi, who was a great Islamic philosopher, that Allah can create things out of nothing. And he has that power. When he wants to create something, he says, be, and it becomes. So in this way, there is no problem that God should have some material first. And that was the point of philosophers, Aristotle, and then his followers, Ibn Sina and Al-Farabi. They said that God could not create anything out of nothing. They said there should have been something from which God has created this universe. And that they believed in the eternity of the universe, eternity of the world. And for that reason, Ghazali had leveled their, decree of blasphemy against them. That how they can restrict to the power of God, that God can't create anything out of nothing. So that is known as creatio ex nihilo. So this is the first point. Second point is that since during the time of Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi or Ibn Arabi, tasawwuf was a dominant subject. As in modern times, when we are talking about religion or some such type of philosophy, we are invoking science. During the time of Ibn Arabi and Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi and the medieval times, tasawwuf was one of the dominant subjects along with philosophy. So people could not do without that. They had to deal with this in this way or that way. Whether they could just follow the implications, that was not important. Third point is that the Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi and then his teacher Yaqub Sarfi was Wahdatul Wujudi, while Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi became Wahdatul Shuhudi. So this is the difference. So in this way, it was dominant trend those days, Wahdatul Wujud, during the time of Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi. And almost as Professor Hamidullah has rightly said, most of the people, most of the Sufis, they used to follow that belief system of the Wahdatul Wujudis. But it was Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi says that this is basically an experience. So he says, I have also passed through these stages. Now, how we can make this as a criterion, who is right and who is wrong? So for that reason, according to Sufis, you have to also undergo the experience. Unless and until you become the man of experience, you may just express about that things, and that will be cursory. That will be not something authentic unless and until you yourself undergo those experiences. But this is a very difficult subject for us because we are not Sufis in that sense, practicing Sufis. We may be lovers of Sufism, but to practice Sufism and to follow their path and undergo all the states they are undergoing, and that is not possible for us. So we can only express these all things what they have said. So as you rightly said, and Professor Muslimin also said, we need to have some more sessions on this. Otherwise, this intricate subject will not become very clear. It will not become explained. So this is a very difficult subject, one of the most difficult subjects I have ever encountered. So in this way, we need to have some more and more sessions on the subject so that many things can become clear. But we need to dispassionately discuss all these issues in modern terminology and in modern parlance. And that is needed because still there are people who are just following these trends, and there's nothing wrong in discussing these in detail. Thank you very much.
And one brief comment I would like to make with the permission of the chair.
Yes, please go ahead, Professor. Yeah.
About the response of the Ummah. and being taken as something, as a proof of the validity of a particular line of thought. So that actually to me is problematic, because there's not any unified response of Ummah. I'm not sure that with regard to any particular issue, so far as, especially with regard to these philosophical issues. And in the absence of that, how good it would be to take, and I don't think it will be that scholarly to assume that there is, when there is no such unified response from the whole collective. And also, in the light of the remarks that have been made, that there are certain issues, certain subjects which are not for the commoners level, and تكلم الناس على قدر عقولهم, as Hamid Saab was earlier saying, and also in with reference to the texts that are now the subject matter of this discussion, and which have many things which are not easy to be understood fully, as was the basic initial comment that Professor Saab made, that so far as Ibn Arabi's writings are concerned, so there are many things that what should not be taken literally. So in the light of that, how we can depend on the collective response when there is no collective response, even if when there are many people who take a different position on any issue, on every issue. That's my point. God bless.
You're right. You're right. Basically, here I would just like to say that, because as I said, that this was once a dominant philosophy, no doubt. And it was just dominating almost all the Sufi circles. Still, at many places, it is dominating. But it was also rebutted by, Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi and other scholars of Islam who are very, very erudite scholars also. They have substance in their scholarship. So I think that, these issues are a little bit, personal, subjective. And those can't be made as something, unified in this way, to make them as the representative of the belief of the Ummah. It is very difficult. There is no ijma on these, because it is not a subject of fiqh. It is subject of belief. It is subject of philosophy. It is subject of, I should say, experience. So these subjects can't be made as, there can't be made any ijma on these subjects. So it is not possible for the Ummah to make this as make ijma on these aspects. There will be always difference of opinion on these subjects, because there is subjectivity involved in this. So in this way, but we can just see that what the response of the ulama of Ummah has been down the ages, and then we can just talk about that, and then see what to review and what to show in that light. Still, there will be difference of opinion, despite making all the clarifications about what to review and what to show. That is possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. This reminds me of a little tiny story. I don't know if I remember it well, who said it, but some of you may have heard it, about this, how it is said that God created man using the dirt from the earth. So somebody apparently in the village has decided that he wants to invite everyone in the village come and observe, that he is going to show that he can do the same thing. This is not only something that God can do, he can do himself. So everybody came to the middle of the city, of the village, to observe. This man is going to create a human being. So he came and he picked a piece of dirt, and Allah decided to come and observe this man. So he came and as soon as this man grabbed this piece of dirt, he said, "Hey, go and get your own dirt."
Allah.
So talking about creating something from nothing, it's the word nothing. It sometimes means in a normal language, there's nothing there, but nothing can be something significant. It includes many things, maybe, but they're not things as in physical manifested things. But that's like you said before, it's a discussion we can go on. It's so anyway, anyone else like to make any comments or ask questions?
I just briefly wanted to add 1 or 2 points. I am in a public area, so that's why I don't want to talk too long or to speak or too long. And
Okay.
in this point, but the one what I heard is this Professor Hamidullah and also Professor before him looks like there is a bit of confusion saying that Ummah is not united about this particular idea of Wahdatul Wujud versus Wahdatul Shuhud. Because Shah Waliullah Dehlovi Rahmatullah Alayhi already clarified it. He is one of the Mujaddid after Sirhindi, who was a Mujaddid. So mainly there was a scholarship by William Shitty. He spent 3 months in the subcontinent to do research on this topic. He went around all over India, Pakistan, Bihar, everywhere. He collected more than 11,000 manuscripts. Out of that, he decided to categorize 2,000 manuscripts of all writing written in Arabic by people on this topic. And based on that, he wrote 20-page article on it. And this was published in all international journals. So, and there was no dispute about it. And main question I wanted to ask to our professor, is Ummah has any division, these 2 words, La Mawjuda Illallah, on this 2 lines, though it's not a phrase in Quran has only 1 word, Wajad. And there's a name, Al-Wajidu, Allah's name, on that word, root word. Ya Wajidu means finder. And Wajid means finding. Of course, it also means La Mawjud, existence. Now I wanted to ask our Ustad that is there Ummah, anyone dispute this phrase? La ilaha illallah, la mawjuda illallah. These 2 phrases. La ilaha illallah, of course, no dispute about it. La mawjuda, is there any dispute? Have you read anywhere that no one is saying that La mawjuda illallah is not correct?
Yeah.
La mawjuda illallah is the Wahdatul Wujud. Now, do you have any question about this phrase, La mawjuda illallah?
Okay. MashaAllah. A very good question. Basically, it is Ghazali, Imam Ghazali has said that the Tawheed of the elite is La Mujda illallah. And the Tawheed of the common people is La ilaha illallah. But the problem is that, in a sense, we can say that Wujud, although as Ibn Taymiyyah would say that there has been no word, as there is no quality which has been mentioned in Quran or Hadith about Wujud. Wajada is there, word Wajada is there. But Wujud is not one of the, has been designated not as the quality of God anywhere in the Quran or Sunnah. So in this way, this can't
It's not a quality of God.
Yeah,
it's not a quality of God.
Wujud.
Yeah, Wujud. Because in that case, I quoted a Quranic verse.
No, Wajada is there. Wajada is there, but not
yeah,
Wujud.
Yeah, Wajada is the quality of Wujud.
That is, but not
is
as,
the quality of Wujud.
Not as noun. Not as noun. It has been not used as noun, as a quality of God. But let me just explain a little bit. Basically, Ghazali has said this, and other scholars also say, in a sense, you are right, that if we see that before Allah, there was nothing, and after Allah, there is nothing. And one day, this world will be not there. There will be only one Allah. And this world is contingent for some time.
You said Allah has no quality of wajid, but Allah's name is Ya Wajid. What do you mean by Allah is not a finder?
Wajid is okay, but Wajid
is Wajid. Yeah, Wajid is the quality of wujud.
Who gives wujud to the things?
Yeah,
Wujud
wujud is the
thing.
existence. Wajud
Yeah.
is the finder of Allah
Yeah,
everywhere.
please let me explain. I will just explain a little bit. Then inshallah I will listen. What you say?
Yeah, yeah.
Basically, wajud in that sense is okay, but problem is that in their quality, in their mostly scholars like Sheikh Ahmad Sirhindi and Ibn Taymiyyah and others, they have said that this in a sense is right, that there is no wujud in Allah. If we
No
see,
wujud.
because
Allah has no wujud.
please, I don't want to enter
Yeah,
into
I
debate.
think
This,
Nur Alam,
that
it'll
we
be
reach
nice to
nowhere.
let Dr. Hamidullah continue
Yeah, I
his
was not
answer,
understanding.
and then you're
That's
welcome to
We will
respond.
reach nowhere if we enter into this debate,
okay.
one to
Sorry,
one.
no worries. Yeah, yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Go
So
ahead, please. Yeah.
basically, problem is that whether there was anything existing before Allah, that's the point. This has been the problem with philosophers also, Ibn Sina and Al-Farabi. But Sufis have tried to depend more on Allah, and they concentrated on the name of Allah. And then there was one, practice of the Sufis, while they were, always pronouncing La Murda illallah. This is one of the wazifa of the Sufis. This has been the wazifa of the Sufis, and then it became enshrined in their mind, and then they said La Murda illallah. It has been mentioned by Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi that when they just practice it again, then they always utter it unconsciously, deliberately and without deliberation. So this is one point. Second point is that before Allah, there was nothing. Allah was there, and after Allah, there was nothing. And one day, this world will perish. Everything will perish one day, and only the face of Allah will be there. So in this way, this shows that this world is contingent. In the real sense of the word, if there's any wujud, that's of Allah. In that sense, it's okay. But to philosophize it, that was the problematic. Then show that there have been Tayunat Sitta, there have been Tanazzulat Sitta, that God made 6 descents from above to down. And then he reached to, Tayuni Jasadi. He came in human form. And he came in the ideal form. He came in this form and that form. So that has been the problematic when it became philosophically articulated. Otherwise, as such, it is right, you are right. There is no wujud in that sense. If we say La Mujda illallah, in that sense, this is true. But when we make it a philosophy, that creates the problem, and that was the reason why Sheikh Ahmad Sirhindi just said that we are just going against this because this is not conforming to the sayings of the Quran or of Allah or sayings of the Prophet. And he said, Mara futuhati madaniya as futuhati makkiya be niyasa sakht, or Mara banas qares nabafas. So it has been said it has been attributed to Sheikh Ahmad Sirhindi. So this is the point, and we need to have some more debate on this, inshallah. Maybe in next sessions we can have more debate on this because everything could not be explained in this session. It was just introductory, session today. We will discuss all issues, inshallah, in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just want to mention something for Nur Alam. In grammar, the word wajid requires a mawjud. That's grammatical. But we cannot say that God as wajid is dependent on the existence of al-mawjud. Otherwise, God is dependent, and we know he is not dependent on anything, including his creation. So even though he created it, so you can have a subject without an object in essence, if you like, from a spiritual perspective, but in grammar you can't. But we don't want to mix them together. This is like mixing the manifest with the unmanifest. With the unmanifest, the whole thing is one. There's no subject or object. But when the manifestation occurs, there are many. And the many, some of them are subjects, some are objects, etc. Anyway, just a comment on.
Yes. Let me explain what I think the confusion here: physical existence versus reflective existence. As I think there is no dispute about immanence and transcendence, because Allah exists not only in immanence, he exists in transcendence. Immanence is the zahir, transcendence is the batin. So these two coexistence happen simultaneously. Allah is hidden, that does not mean he is absent. Allah is hidden, that does not mean he is absent. everything in the world of seen has a root in the world of unseen. Allahu wahidun be sifatihi, but ahadun be zatihi. Allahu wahidun be sifatihi wa asmaihi. Allah তার নাম এবং name and qualities, He is actually Wahid, but He is one with His Zat in His essence. So, but His Wahid name is not manifested name, because Ibn Arabi says, Huwa mustawla ala batene kulle zahir. He occupies and sway over everything in a hidden way over everything manifest. Anyway, Azan I'll talk to you about it.
Yeah.
So this is the point. So I think this debate will continue. Anyway, I published a paper in Aligarh Philosophy Journal on this issue. I'll refer you to that, and also I refer you William Shittick article. With that note, I conclude my
That's good. Thank
participation.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Noor. Thank you. Thank you
Just
for your good question.
I just want to respond a little bit. Mashallah, very good. You have said, mashallah, very good points. But no, one there we have to make difference between mutashabihat and muhkamat. So the qualities of God belong to the category of mutashabihat. And we can't explain them in these terms as we are using these for the creations. In this way, we have to make this difference because there are two types of verses in Quran, muhkamat and mutashabihat. So we have to assign the meaning of that to the hadith, as hadith has mentioned this. But still, we can discuss these issues inshallah in next sessions. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe because the time has gone past, I just want to allow if somebody has one more question. If I don't want someone to have a question in his mind and he can't ask it if he wants to. So please, if you have a question or a comment, you're hiding inside, please go ahead and say it. Well, that's good. I'm not forcing anyone not to speak. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Hamidullah. You have really gave us a very insightful and also thank you so much for suggesting that you're willing to come back for more talks. So, and we have discussions. So now we'll have to think of part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 for the future, and maybe we do less lecture formats in the future, possibly, or briefer lecture and more discussion, because it seems people like to express different things in their desire to learn sometimes. So thank you so much for that, and thank you everyone for joining us today, and assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.